I share greetings, grand rising, a grand day, and peace and goodwill to you all once again, my fellow natural native earthly humans, the earth organic humans, yes, you, my fellow soulful humans the world over, and welcome to this part 7 in the series of my lecture presentations titled Redemption from the Curse of the the Belak spell, revisited. Yes, I am yours truly. Yes, I, the Mystic Philosopher. And many thanks for stopping by and giving up your time to listen or to be listening, and possible to be provoked into re-examining some of your long-held beliefs, and maybe to think and also to see things a little differently. Now, if you haven't yet watched or listened to part 1 to part 6 of this series, and hopefully in that order, that consecutive order, I ask that you please do so before going forward with this part 7, or that you please do so at your earliest convenience. This part 7 is the continuation of where I left off in part 6. And so by watching and listening to these presentations in the order in which they are done, and especially if you are truly a free, deep, critical, analytical thinker, you will be able to get a much better and deeper understanding, and a deeper overstanding of some of the unique thought-provoking ideas, thought-provoking insights and perspectives that I am sharing on the many different topics and subjects that I will cover throughout and will be covering throughout the duration of this series titled Redemption from the Curse of the Belak spell, revisited. So at the end of part 6, I told you about something devastating that in the long time past had happened to our natural native earthly humans, and that until this day, this current day, we have not yet recovered from it. And it all has to do with the thing called word and language. And so I will revisit what I have said and tell you what happened. And to revisit, I'll quote exactly what I've said, so to keep you informed. Now, I quote, from my perspective, let me repeat, from my perspective, it is no fear to say that by reading these scriptures, which I've read in part 6, by reading these scriptures, we may interpret and understand that the most despicable thing that we or anyone can do to seriously and destructively impact the natural native earthly human relationships, our natural native earthly human relationships, is to sow any form of disharmony, to sow any form of discord, to sow any form of disunity or confusion among our fellow humans. In other words, most of us may agree that to sow mischief among our fellow natural native earthly humans is an abomination to both God, whoever or whatever you may conceive or believe it, she, him or her to be, and our natural native earthly humans alike. Now at this point I would also like to draw your attention to what I, the Mystic Philosopher, personally consider to be the most devastating and traumatic event to have ever been brought upon our natural native earthly humanity. And that event is recorded in one of the most important, though overlooked and misinterpreted scriptures in the Adamic Race History and Holy Book, Adamic Race History and Holy Book, aka the Christian Holy Bible. Now, this is an event that, according to a much earlier Hebrew writer, took place some time ago. And as you may see, that if at all it is true and authentic, then that event has had a very deadly and prolonged disastrous consequences, to say the least, on the entire natural native earthly human race, on our one natural native earthly human family. And the event I'm talking about is to be found in the Adamic Race History book, according to the book of Genesis, from Genesis chapter 11, from verse 1 to 9. And I'm going to be quoting from the King James Version. And thus it is written in the Adamic Race History and Holy Book, Genesis chapter 1 to 9. And I quote, "And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men build. And the Lord said, Behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another, or understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Unquote. We will be spending some time hopefully on that scriptures and point out many things that you may have overlooked in it. Now, from the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, reading and interpreting this passage of ancient writings or ancient scriptures, I have found that there are a lot more encoded information than that which meets the ignorant, the sealed, and unsuspecting minds. This portion of scriptures, according to some Bible scholars and theologians, is reported to be approximately 3,700 years old. And if the source, namely the original Sumerian tablets, from which it is alleged to have been plagiarized, is authentic, then it would be some 6,000 years old. However, that is not essential. That is not essentially the main focus at this time. Now, one of the many things that I would like to point out here, and one that I would also ask that you pay very close attention to, is that if at all this scripture or this ancient writing is truly authentic and correct, then we as the natural native earthly humans have something very great to be proud of. For here we must agree that at least once in our natural native earthly human recorded history, we have authentic evidence that will support the fact that our natural native earthly human family, our natural native earthly human race once spoke only one language or one tongue. And when we did, we were all on one accord. We understood each other. When we did, we were all on one accord. We were all in harmony with each other. And when we were on one accord, we understood each other. When we understood each other, we had peace among ourselves. In other words, amongst our early natural native earthly humanity, there were no wars, there were no conflicts, there were no humanitarian issues, there were no genocides, there were no ethnic cleansing, there were no unnecessary bloodshed, there were no grievances, and even if there were grievances, or what I call petty grievances, there were none that could not be solved or resolved through the use of the spoken words, through the use of words of love and understanding, understanding, overstanding. There were no atrocities. When we spoke one language and we were all united, there were no atrocities. And of course, there were certainly no isms and schisms. If at all these ancient scriptures are authentic, then we can understand, and overstand that our natural native earthly human family once worked together for the common good of all. We were able to bring about anything that our then uncorrupted language and mind could imagine. That was for the good, for the common good of all. Now, the big question that I would like us to the possible remnants and ascendants of that once peaceful natural native earthly human family to ask ourselves today, and then lend a bit of our focus of what is left of our imagination, are as follows. Who or which lord and company that, according to the above scriptures or the above ancient writings, which God or which lord it was that came down to our peaceful earth and created divisions among our natural native earthly human family? Who or which lord and company that would intentionally, may I say maliciously, cause confusion, cause separation, cause disharmony, and utter chaos and destruction amongst a very peaceful and united natural native earthly human family? Who or which lord and company that would maliciously and premeditatedly confound our language, confound our tongue, that we would or may no longer understand and overstand each other? Who and which lord and company that would deliberately and covetously broke up our once peaceful families and scatter us abroad and all over the world? Who or which lord and company it was that created this unity amongst our natural native earthly human family? Why was it our very harmonious words and the one unified language of our natural native earthly humanity that this Lord, the Lord and company, viciously attacked and corrupted to cause us, the natural native earthly human, havoc, to cause us disasters, to cause us woes? And finally, on this point for now, could it be that the Lord and company that came down and confound us, the natural native earthly humans, are Satan, the same Satan, the devil, the author and sustainer of cons and confusion? Now, this topic by itself is huge and one that deserves much closer scrutiny, and most certainly I will address it in the following lecture as I continue to give you my perspective and insights and many more things. We will be dissecting that, so stay tuned. So this will be the end of part 7. I realize I go over my 15 minutes time. This will be the end of part 7 of this series titled Redemption from the Curse of the B-Lock Spell Revisited. That these are just preliminary, setting the foundation. You will understand and understand the whole reason as you continue to work along with me. So please stay tuned for part 8, where I will continue talking about the things called words, thoughts, the universe, and by extension, universes. In the meantime and between time, here is willing that you be more and much more, and definitely not be less. Let no one be less you. Don't let no one be less you. AKA bless you, or let no one be less you. For I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, I say. Thanks for your time. Please share.